Hey there, welcome to this episode, and as you can see today we want to take a look at the user interface or all the knobs and buttons for the SP-404 MKII. Now it's going to be very important to learn the layout of this little device because there are multiple button presses and shortcuts, ways to access menus, change your parameters, things like that. So being very familiar with its layout is going to help you moving forward. It's going to make your workflow a lot better. If we start with the top here, we've got four main rotaries. The left-hand rotary is your volume knob, so that's going to, of course, change your output volume to your speakers, to your monitors, and also to your headphones at the front. To the right of those, we have the three control knobs here, labeled 1 to 3, and these are what I call multifunction knobs, because it depends on what mode that you're currently working on, whether it's sample chopping or whatever. These are going to change parameters depending on that mode, so you're going to find yourself coming back to these quite often. Underneath, we have our 6 effects buttons. So if you think of this as like the effects section, here you can assign your effects and do certain things. You can turn the effects on and off and play with the parameters and stuff like that. So that's going to be all of the effects here. Then we've got our main display in the center, which is, you know, what it obviously is. It's going to display lots of important information, and again, it's going to change depending on the mode that you're in. So if you're in pattern select or you're chopping a sample, whatever it is, you're going to get really valuable information inside of here. Now, in the next section underneath, we have kind of a bunch of smaller sections, and that's what's really cool with the SP-404 is that Roland have kindly labeled it as clearly as they can to try and make accessing menus and functions quite easy. If you ever get lost, even on the display itself, you will find there's a lot of useful information, but sometimes it's easy to kind of overlook it. But if you notice underneath the pads here, we have things like the utility menu, the counting, you know, fixed velocity. So if you're ever stuck looking for something, just be more mindful of the actual written text on the device. And in this little section here with these buttons, we've got a pattern sequencer. So of course you want to sequence your patterns, you can do it here. We've got sample edit for doing your chops and all of that kind of stuff. Some recording functions, resampling, sample mode where we can change the playback of a sample, we can do time stretching, gate, loop, all that kind of good stuff. We have a few little multifunction buttons again here, exit and shift, remain is a useful one. And then you've got access to your banks here, so all of your samples on your multiple banks we can access. And then underneath, of course, we have our pads. You've got 16 of those, all clearly labeled, again with useful information. You're in DJ mode, you're looking for the bend or the sync or whatever, cue points. It's all labeled nice and clearly. You can technically play the sub pad as well, so you get kind of like 17 pads that you can play. We've got an external source button here, which is for monitoring and checking your line inputs when you're recording things in. Got a whole button which we'll dive into in another episode. Same with like the bus effects. These are all going to be broken down into more detailed deep dive episodes. And then finally we have this push and enter button, which again is very similar to your rotaries at the top here. It's a multifunction button that will change depending on the mode that you're working on, and you can click this to perform certain functions, and you can use it as a rotary encoder and turn it left to right to change certain parameters as well. So essentially, that is the user interface for this device. As I said, really good to get familiar with it, know where everything is, because your workflow is just going to speed up tenfold if you're very familiar and have some muscle memory for, you know, Shift and 13 is the utility menu, all of that kind of stuff. And it does become second nature once you've done it for long enough. So that's going to be it for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.